Hello and welcome to another episode of the Chaos Chronicles. Today I am back with Trent.
Hello?
Today we are going to talk about one that is going to lead into a bigger episode later on. We're going to talk about the disappearance of Joshua Giemond. Before we get too deep into it, though, make sure that you are following us on all of our social media platforms. We have those linked down below for you guys. So make sure you go follow, give us a like, and subscribe. All right. Are you ready to get into this?
I am ready. Are you ready?
I don't know.
We'll find out here.
We will find out. So, today we're talking about Josh Giemond. Josh was born in 1982 and graduated valedictorian and class president at Maple Lake High School in the year 2000. After graduating, he went to St. John's University in Minnesota in hopes to become a lawyer or politician and was active in mock trial teams, which I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, I don't think we ever had that like anywhere I went, that I know of, but apparently it is.
Yeah, I don't know. Is that like a debate or is it just like
I think so. Like I mean, don't get mad at me in the comments if I'm not right, but I think it's like they do like a mock trial and you have like a prosecution and a defense, and there's a case and they have to defend it, argue it, and all that. So
okay. Interesting.
Comment if you've ever been on mock trial team or know more than we do, which wouldn't be that much. But if you know if you know more than us, please comment below what it's about.
I don't think I've ever been anywhere that has had mock trial teams. Not that I know of, at least.
Yeah.
Maybe I just don't pay that much attention. I don't know.
That could be.
So Josh was described as being responsible, sociable, and close with his family. On November 9th of 2002, Josh went to a poker party at his friend's dorm on campus. Witnesses say that Josh had consumed between 7 and 12 beers over the course of an evening, but his friends noted that he didn't seem to be too heavily intoxicated. Around midnight, Josh decided to leave the party and make the 3-minute walk back to his dorm. He was last seen walking alone near Stump Lake around 12:15 on November 10th, 2002. It is November, so we don't really know what the weather could be depending year to year. But this particular year, it was 30 degrees outside, so not too bad in Minnesota. And he was last seen wearing blue jeans and a gray St. John's sweatshirt.
Okay. So, I mean, that makes, to people who don't live in Minnesota, that might seem very cold, but for us in November, that's actually not bad. So,
yeah.
And I mean, he could be completely comfortable wearing jeans and a sweatshirt, walking home in 30-degree weather. So,
yeah, I'm trying to think. In 30-degree weather, I don't think I break out the jacket until it's
definitely not.
10, especially for a 3-minute walk.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you've had a couple drinks too, you're a little warm. And so
good to go.
Jeans and a sweatshirt, you're ready to travel home.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say it's like inappropriate clothing for that weather. Would be like that would have to be like shorts or something like that.
I would wear shorts in that weather.
You would wear shorts in that weather.
But that would be, for most people, that would be kind of abnormal to do shorts and a t-shirt in 30-degree weather. So nothing about how that seems out of the ordinary at all.
No.
I mean, it just seems like a normal kid went to a poker party, had some drinks, walked back to his dorm.
Yeah.
Everything seems normal.
Normal night.
Yeah.
So far. So the next morning, Josh didn't show up to a scheduled mock trial practice, which was very unusual for him. Friends then went to check his dorm and found his belongings, car keys, wallet, glasses, and his computer was even left on and open to a school assignment.
Huh. So it didn't seem like he had made any plans to, like, he didn't, I mean, and apparently he needed his glasses to see too. So he never left anywhere without his glasses. So that's a weird one too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it seems like, I don't know, in my mind, I would be like, oh, he probably went to the bathroom or something and is coming back. Um, but yeah, just very bizarre. And then they also checked his bank activity, and there was nothing on any of his cards or anything.
Which you would think if he went somewhere of his own accord, he would have to pay for something, food, gas,
Yeah.
whatever. And I don't even know if he had a car there or not, but
Well, he had car keys,
okay,
I
so he
think.
must have had a
Yeah.
car. But you'd think that he would have to have paid for something in that time if that was
Hmm.
if he voluntarily went somewhere. So
Yeah.
I,
He's just going to look lovingly into your soul.
yeah.
All right. I'm going to try to not laugh this
Yeah,
whole
good
time.
luck.
So his friends ended up contacting campus security, and by November 11th, the Stearns County Sheriff's Office was notified. The search began immediately and focused on the campus and surrounding areas. They covered the 2,500-acre campus, which also included dense woods, lakes, and trails. A bloodhound was able to track Josh's scent from Metten Court to a bridge near Stump Lake. This led to some this led some to speculate that he could have fallen into the water while he was intoxicated. Dive teams searched this lake and lakes and bodies of water that were nearby, but there wasn't any evidence of him being in any of them.
And the lakes were it was still open, correct? It hadn't frozen over yet.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
There was also no physical evidence that they could find. They couldn't find clothing, they couldn't find footprints, nothing.
Which is strange too. Especially, I don't know if there's snow on the ground at all, but you'd think that you would see something, even like at that time of the year, like if you're walking down by the lake or something, you'd think you'd see some sort of indent in the mud or in anything. And apparently there's nothing.
No, this is really reminding me of the Brandon Swanson case.
Yeah, very similar in that there wasn't a lot of evidence to go on to help, piece together a story.
Just kind of poof.
Yeah.
So days passed and the investigation broadened. The FBI and Minnesota Bureau, I can't say this word.
Bureau.
Yep. And that of Criminal Apprehension, or the BCA, which is how I say it, joined the county sheriffs, and the National Guard assisted with aerial and ground searches.
So they did a big search. This wasn't just like, the local PD or campus PD or anything. I mean, they, when they bring in the BCA and they bring in National Guard and everything, that's a big search.
Yeah, this is huge.
And usually they find something when they do all that. So the fact they found zero evidence whatsoever is wild to me.
Yeah. And including all of these resources, they even had over 100 volunteers that were also searching, and they still found nothing.
Yep.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
Investigators interviewed friends, roommates, and party attendees who confirmed that Josh was in good spirits and had no known enemies. They did find out that Josh had a recent breakup with Katie Benson, but both Katie and friends stated that it was amicable and she was not considered a suspect.
And they were still good friends too.
Yeah, from the sounds of it.
They had been friends since high school. They had dated, then they decided just to be friends. But I mean, I saw an interview with her, and apparently, I mean, she seemed like she was one of the most distraught people about the whole thing. So it didn't seem like that necessarily played too much role, at least on her part, because she seemed very broken up by losing, her best friend and not being able to find him. So
yeah, everything that I read about her is just super cooperative, and it was very, like, they were on good terms.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
So that, rules out, at least it seems like it rules out one of the major people of interest, in traditional cases. I don't even think they they ever like identified her as a person of interest or
I
anything.
couldn't find anything where they officially labeled her
Yeah,
as
I
a
don't think
person of
so.
interest.
Yeah.
No. But yeah, that's usually who they do find in the investigations. The first thing are like friends, any exes,
Yeah.
any yeah.
Yep.
So then attention turned to Josh's computer, which revealed that he had been active on in online chat platforms, including Yahoo Personals, where he sometimes used uh, female personas to interact with men. This raised questions about whether he might have arranged to meet someone that night, but again, there was no evidence to suggest that he left the party to go meet
Hmm.
up with someone.
Yeah. And there was no evidence of like, footprints next to a car or just anything like that would point to that
Right,
beyond the
yeah.
fact that he had been on those personal sites.
Mhm.
So,
Exactly. Another lead emerged when Brian Guimond, who was Joshua's father, hired a private bloodhound team. The dog tracked Josh's scent from Metencourt to St. John's Abbey, a Benedictine monastery that was on campus. This fueled speculation about a connection to a sexual abuse scandal involving monks at the Abbey, which had surfaced in the 1990s and early 2000s. I did not dive into that at all. So
yeah.
I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, I mean there was sexual abuse,
Mm-hmm.
uh of students, at the university and everything by some of the people working there, some of the adults and everything. And apparently, according to some of the people that were interviewed, Josh was like deeply upset by that and had even said that he was going to like do some research into it himself, but then they found no evidence of that, like on his computer or anything that he had actually like carried that forward. But that is obviously is something to look into when you've
Mm-hmm.
had sexual abuse scandals against young men at the school, and then if the bloodhounds track his scent to the abbey, that's a little strange.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, like you said, there was no evidence linking the Abbey to his disappearance at all
Yeah.
either, though.
Yeah. And I guess originally at the Abbey, they didn't let the dog go in to the Abbey. But then
Oh,
through the work of like with the police department
yeah.
coordinating it, they did, I guess, allow at that point, but they didn't find any evidence or anything. Um, so it was a little weird, but also it was, I mean, this wasn't like official police stuff, I mean, the dad was the one that hired the dog
Right.
team, and there was some speculation that, that the dog team or that the dog wasn't the most reliable, and so I
Mm-hmm.
think maybe, playing, the other side of it, like the Abbey doesn't want to get pulled into this or something because of something that's not even part of the official investigation. And all of a
Right.
sudden, especially with what they already went through with
Mm-hmm.
their abuse scandals and stuff, I could see why they wouldn't want anyone in there,
Right.
to try and drum up more of that connection when maybe it has nothing to do with anything. So
Exactly. Yeah. No, I can see that. And also, the police's dogs didn't.
they didn't track him there either.
No.
So it is kind of anomalous that this one dog, and you don't know, which one is correct in that or whatever. But
Right.
the official police dogs did not track him there at all.
Right. Yeah. Then by 2003, the drowning theory lost traction as repeated lake searches came up with nothing. Investigators began exploring foul play more seriously.
Hmm. And I know that, in Minnesota, the lakes freeze over in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
And so after they did the initial search of the lake, there was everybody was kind of thinking like, well, in the spring when it thaws, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, especially a lot of cadavers, they kind of bloat and everything have been in water for a while. So a lot of people expected that in the spring when it thawed, that the body would come up and they would
Yep.
find it. And they never did. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the dad I know would take like a kayak out on the lake and do the entire perimeter of the lake looking for a body and
Wow.
stuff, and they
Yeah.
never found it. So even after the thaw, after the body was in the water, which most lakes that are smaller lakes, the body's going to come up
Mm-hmm.
somewhere, and
Yep.
it never did. So so that kind of rules out that he was ever in the water, or at least that's not where he ended up dying, was in the water.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Not in the water.
yeah.
So there is a notable lead. that there has been. It's the orange Pontiac Sunfire.
Mm-hmm.
So that was seen on campus around the time of Josh's disappearance. Witnesses reported seeing two men dropped off by the car near Stump Lake. One was fleeing from campus security also.
Mm-hmm.
The car was later destroyed in a salvage yard before they could actually thoroughly examine it. So if there was something, it's gone.
Yeah, yeah. Which is frustrating. I mean, that's
Yeah.
always frustrating when uh, a viable lead is crushed,
I know.
literally. So,
Yeah. Yep, it is gone.
yeah.
Josh's computer became a focal point again in 2008 when investigators discovered chat logs suggesting that he might have been picked up by a car near the bridge where his scent was last detected.
Which would make sense. That would be
Mm-hmm.
why he kind of vanished, not only scent wise, but tracks and just any of that
Yep.
stuff. That would be the most likely scenario, is if he got into a vehicle there and then, went who knows
Yeah.
where. So,
Right. The logs included conversations with unidentified individuals, but none definitively pointed to a planned meeting on November 9th. Another interesting thing happened. It was found that someone had used internet washing software on his computer days after his disappearance, which raised suspicions of tampering.
yeah, I mean, that seems to me to be one of the most interesting parts of this, because obviously he's gone. He didn't
Yep.
sneak back into his dorm. I mean, everyone's looking for him. He's nowhere to be seen. And so for somebody else had to do that, had to have access to his dorm, and then also feel that there's something on that computer that would either make that person or Josh or both of them look bad.
Yep.
And so they wiped the computer.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Well, it's like if you think about it, he went missing like the night of like the 9th/the 10th.
mm-hmm.
And the sheriff's department didn't know about it until the 11th.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of time
Yep.
of like there's no crime scene put up. Like people are probably coming and going.
Yeah, especially
It's
in
a dorm
college.
room.
Yeah, it's a dorm. People
Yeah.
come in and out all the time, but I mean, you would have to be in there for a while to be able to like put a software on there
Yeah.
to scrub it. Especially because this wasn't nowadays where you can do things really quickly on a computer. I mean, these were
Mm-hmm.
older style desktops and everything. So somebody
Yep.
had to like have the intention, get in there, have the time to load it, scrub the computer as much as they could.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me points to somebody close to him, that, and possibly like a roommate or somebody who had access
Yeah,
to the room and the computer
for sure.
and knew what was on the computer, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, because why wipe it if you don't know what's on it?
exactly, yeah.
Yep. So this case also drew comparisons to two other regional disappearances. Christopher Jenkins, which was October of 2002 in Minneapolis, and Michael Knoll, which was November 2002 in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, which is really close to Minnesota. It's basically on the border. Both were college aged men who vanished after drinking and were later found in water. Jenkins' death was reclassified as a homicide in 2006, fueling speculation about a serial killer, sometimes dubbed the smiley face killer.
And that we will get into in future episodes. So hang tight on that one. But this is a good segue into that, because all this time was when it started to, these things were happening, and people started to kind of like put the pieces together a little bit, and sometimes that's not the right thing to do. Sometimes they are just independent cases.
Yep.
But it just seemed like college age males ending up, dead. And I mean, we don't know that Josh is dead. We don't know what happened to him. So it was a little different, his case, than the other two, where they found them, in a body of water. So it is a little different, but it was a strange thing that those cases were all kind of coinciding and had shared so many similarities.
Yeah. And including time too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those were all within a couple months of each other. So
at Minnesota, or basically Minnesota colleges and
basically
universities.
Minnesota,
Yeah.
Yeah. Eau Claire may as well be Minnesota. It's right on the border.
Yep.
But authorities never found evidence linking Josh's case to the others or even a broader pattern. The case went cold for much of the next decade with periodic reviews, but again, no significant breakthroughs had been found. Now, Josh's father, Brian, became a vocal advocate, pushing for transparency and criticizing the sheriff's office for what he perceived as mishandling, including failure to secure Josh's dorm room and the delays in analyzing his computer.
Yeah. But again, like you said, it's I mean, college kids go missing, not truly missing, quite a bit, and they're staying at someone else's house, or they're, there's an explanation, they pop up, the next day or whatever.
Yeah.
So, I don't necessarily, and there's no sign of foul play. If they had found blood or something, then I could see them, immediately jumping in and doing it. But it didn't seem initially like foul play would be suspected immediately. I mean, the goal immediately was just to figure out where he was. And so, I mean, obviously, his father had better understanding of the investigation than we do, but it just doesn't seem like there was any reason for them immediately to seal off everything and take the computer and do all of that before they even knew. Because imagine if he just pops up the next day or something, and he was like, "Oh, I was staying at someone else's house." And then it'd be kind of silly for them to have confiscated his computer and locked down his door and all of that stuff. So, I mean, it would have been nice to know immediately, to know what was on the computer before whoever scrubbed it. But it seems like, I don't know that the police really dropped the ball, at least on that aspect of it.
I mean, with the computer, what I can see is it sounds like, I mean, they looked into his computer again in 2008, and that's when they found the chat logs. Is that what he's talking about?
Maybe.
Between him disappearing in 2002 and then 2008 discovering the chat logs?
That could be that, like, it took them 6 years to do this stuff. But also, I mean, you have to remember that in the early 2000s, computers, like, our forensic analysis of computers wasn't as good either. And it was a lot harder to do those types of things. I'm sure the FBI had, the ability to do that and stuff, but it's not like today where, if someone commits a crime or does something, I mean, within 24 hours, the police have everything off their computer and know all the stuff. And, it was a little different time than it is today as far as technology and computers.
That is true. Yeah, I keep having a hard time. I'm like, it's in the 2000s. It's still early 2000s.
Yeah, that was a long time ago as far as technology and everything.
Yeah, unfortunately. So in 2021, the Stearns County Sheriff's Office sent Josh's computer to the Minnesota BCA for advanced forensic analysis. In 2022, the BCA recovered 28 images of unidentified men from the hard drive, believed to be related to Josh's online activity. These images were released to the public in hopes of identifying the individuals, but as of 2025, none of them have been conclusively linked to the case. And you can go check out those photos. I will post them over on Instagram. The use of internet washing software and the presence of these images deepened suspicion of foul play, possibly involving someone Josh met online or potentially on campus. It's truly hard to say. In 2021, Brian filed a lawsuit against the Stearns County Sheriff's Office to gain access to the full case file, citing frustration with the lack of progress being made. The lawsuit was partially successful, granting him limited access, but he continued to push for answers. So this case has been talked about on a lot of different things. The Netflix series Unsolved Mysteries, which I know you've talked about, did an episode on him, and that talked about his disappearance and explored theories, like the Abby connection, and then the Pontiac Sunfire lead.
And also they talked about the roommate too. So his roommate was a person of interest, very loosely in the case, not a suspect or anything.
Yeah.
But I guess his roommate had kind of had a crush on his ex-girlfriend, and I guess they had gone on a couple dates and everything, but apparently it didn't apparently it wasn't like a huge deal, I guess, I mean, they're still roommates, if they're still friends and everything. The roommate would have access to the computer, which would have been,
Right.
something that he could have done. And the other thing, which I don't think is really a big deal, but some people made a big deal, is he did not submit to a polygraph test. He just said that he
Oh.
didn't want to do that, which, I mean, like the way he described it was, which is true, polygraph tests are not conclusive. They're not admissible in court.
Mm-hmm.
They can be false, and if you didn't do anything and you somehow get a false positive that you were deceptive or something, that can ruin your life.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily blame him for not doing the polygraph, because
I
I don't
wouldn't
know that I
either.
would do it either.
I don't know. I feel like I'm too anxious, and that would just create crazy results.
Yeah,
Like if you ask me my name, I'll be like,
even if you're saying a truthful response, you could be so nervous that it gives a
Yeah.
weird physiological thing. Or, who knows, maybe he was covering something else, up
Mm-hmm.
between the computer and all that stuff that had absolutely nothing to do with his disappearance, or
Right.
nothing to do with the roommate disappearing, Josh. But maybe that would have led him to become a suspect in something that he actually had nothing to do with. So
Right.
so the sense is that, yes, there's some things that link the roommate, as far as the computer, as far as possibly a love triangle, between the three, and but I don't fault him for not taking a polygraph. And the cops never had any like suspicion beyond that he did
Yeah.
anything. And I guess he was like, his time was accounted for the most part, throughout that process too. So it just doesn't seem like he's a great suspect to have somehow done something to him and
Right.
hidden the body that was like way off campus, or way far
Mm-hmm.
away, and then come back and been normal. So
Right. Yeah. I was gonna ask a question about the roommate.
mhm.
Um, was the roommate also at the party that night?
That's a good question. I think he was.
Okay.
I don't remember 100%, but I think he was at the party as well.
Okay. Yeah. None of my research I did, I don't think I came across the roommate.
Yeah, I don't remember if he was actually at the party, but I want to say he was.
Okay.
So he wasn't, I mean, I don't think he had like a huge lapse in time where,
Mm-hmm.
he was gone for, 12 hours, 24 hours, something where like he
Yeah.
couldn't explain where he was. I think he had like a normal college kid story of where he was and what he was doing, and,
Yeah.
all that. So,
Yeah. I was just wondering if, I mean, if he was there that night, I mean, if that's when Josh disappeared and if he was there the whole night, I don't
yeah. And
know.
I mean, it would have been, there was nothing that I read or saw, that like he left with Josh, or he left right after or
Yeah,
something.
it
Cause I
sounded
mean, if,
like he went by himself.
yeah, because if
Yeah.
Josh is walking home, and the roommate was going to do something in that time, like he
Mm-hmm.
would have had to have like been with him or followed him immediately or
Right.
something. And I don't think there's any evidence of any of that. So,
Yeah. I mean, I guess my assumption is that it wasn't that big of a deal and he wasn't that big of a person of interest
yeah.
because his name didn't come across anything that I read.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I don't even want to like say his name or anything, because I feel bad when people are
Yeah.
like,
This
suspected of
person,
things,
yeah.
by people, and it's like, they probably didn't do anything. So,
Yeah.
there was like a report of them, for the three of them fighting,
Oh.
like the love triangle, like having an argument, but it did. Nobody said it was like violent or physical or anything beyond just like people getting upset at each other.
I mean, that's typical for college
Yeah, they're
kids.
college kids,
Yeah.
and they've had a few drinks, and like, if there is
Yeah.
like, if there is some sort of crush or there's a weird love triangle or something, it's, but that doesn't lead to like, oh, that means you killed somebody. So
Mm-mm.
it seems like kind of a normal interaction with college kids.
Yeah, it's on par for college kids.
Yeah.
All right. So, Sheriff Steve Soka in 2022, in a 2022 statement, officially ruled out drowning, stating, quote, "We do not believe Josh is in any of the bodies of water on campus," end quote. He emphasized foul play as the primary focus, though no suspects have been publicly named. As of June 29th, 2025, which is when I don't know why I did that. That was yesterday as I was doing research. So as of yesterday, um, because I make no assumptions for today or beyond. Josh's disappearance remains active and an unsolved case. The Stearns County Sheriff's Office continues to seek information, encouraging tips via their hotline, which is 320-251-4240, or Tri County Crime Stoppers 1-800-255-1301. Josh is described as being 6 feet tall, 176 pounds, with blonde hair and blue eyes, last seen in blue jeans and a gray St. John's sweatshirt. There is a $5,000 reward that is being offered for information leading to his whereabouts.
And he would be 42, 43 now?
He was born
And I think he was born in 82.
82.
Okay, so he'd be either 42 or 43 now, depending on when he was born. So he obviously would look different than what the pictures are and everything. But and I don't know if they've done any like age progression
That's what I was
things.
just wondering.
I haven't seen any before, but
I mean, there was one for him in 2014, it looks like.
But it looks basically the same.
Yeah, it's pretty much
They basically
the same.
took the same picture and gave him a receding hairline. So
yeah, that's what it looks like.
Yeah. So, but otherwise it looks the same. So
Yeah.
that isn't super helpful.
No.
But
yeah. So
what do you think is the most likely scenario if you had to speculate on it?
So I'm going to say the taking off the table, in my opinion, is the accidental death or suicide.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that there wasn't enough evidence linking to that in my mind. I don't know. I could see the most likely in my head is kind of just, I don't know. I feel like something got him out of his dorm.
Mm-hmm.
Something got him out of his dorm where he expected to come back. And I think he might have been snatched.
It seems like that's the most likely scenario.
Yeah.
It definitely seems like foul play.
Yeah.
And I mean, I love a good alien, abduction.
Are you going to say alien abduction?
No, I'm actually not in this one. I want to because I love that. But I think in this case, it doesn't make sense because you're at a college campus, with people everywhere. Nobody saw strange lights. Nobody saw anything. It's one thing, even the Brandon Swanson, when you're out in the middle of a cornfield, it makes a little more sense to me. But this one,
there's too many people.
Yeah. And so that's like one of those series that everybody always just kind of defaults to possibly, if someone just vanishes from Earth. But in this case, that seems like it doesn't make any sense that it would be anything beyond like human intervention and foul play. So, and it seems like he, what the weird thing to me is it seems like he left in a rush too. Like if he was going to meet somebody, you'd think he would still have his glasses and some of the other things too.
Keys, a wallet.
Yeah. I mean, even if it was going to go be like some sort of, illicit meeting or something, with somebody, you'd think he would still take his stuff with him. And so the fact that none of that stuff, was found, or I guess all of it was found, none of it was like, missing.
Yeah.
I think that kind of, I don't know. It seems weird to me that it would just be like he had planned to meet somebody somewhere. So it almost seems like he was like taken, quickly by somebody or, and taken away. And I don't know, but it is weird to me that you wouldn't find his body somewhere. A lot of people that go missing, and not everybody, of course, but a lot of people, if it's like somebody does something, kills somebody, you find a body a lot of times, somewhere, and especially in these areas around there's a lot of hunters. There's a lot of people, not necessarily on campus, but like or in the surrounding woods and everything. In some of so if someone dumped him, out in a rural area or something, usually something comes up,
someone's gonna stumble upon them or something.
And even if it's a shoe or a hat or a sweatshirt or sock or something, and so the fact that we are 20 some years later and there's not been a body or even any shred of physical evidence is really strange to me.
Yeah, absolutely nothing. I'm not gonna lie, I was looking forward to listening about your alien abduction theory for this one.
Yeah, I mean, and normally, trust me, I love the David Paulides stuff. I love a lot of the missing 411 and the things where it makes sense, but a lot of those don't happen in densely populated areas. They happen in national parks. They happen out in nature, where there's like nobody really around. But there's nobody saw weird lights that night. Nobody saw anything that would point to that. So as much as I'm into those theories and everything with missing person cases, especially ones where people just vanish into thin air, it just doesn't seem like it fits at all.
Yeah.
So
it makes sense. I can see why not.
yeah.
The only thing I have left is just to rattle off my sources real quick. Wikipedia, NPR News, Reddit, Fox 9, CBS News, Oxygen, and Care 11.
Cool. And if you guys have any theories or anything, please comment below. Let us know or send us a message if you have any theories about this, or if you remember the story at all, for people in Minnesota, especially if you remember the story or have seen anything about it, send us a message or a comment below.
I will say, I don't remember Josh specifically, but I remember when I was like in elementary school, there was a lot of news reports of college age kids drinking and going missing.
Yep.
I do remember a lot of that.
Yep. And I mean, that still kind of continues to this day.
It does, yeah.
I think that was when it first started to break, that people were kind of connecting the dots that this is happening a lot. And I mean, part of it too is, especially young college guys, like you drink, your frontal lobe isn't fully developed, and maybe you do dumb things.
Yeah.
I did some dumb things too in college.
We've all done dumb things.
So, I mean, it's, part of it is it's not saying that's all foul play. Although when we get into the smiley face killer theories and, those episodes, which stay tuned, we'll be doing some episodes on that. You'll see that it's not all just, there are some connections. There are some things that make it seem like there might be more to it than just a bunch of random incidences happening.
Yep. Yeah. I was definitely, I'm glad I didn't say anything because I was definitely mixing up some of Josh's details with
some of the other cases.
Some of the other cases for the smiley face.
So. And it's hard because so many of the details in a lot of those cases do overlap.
They do.
And then, there are a few differences. This one, the big one is just that there's been no body, that they haven't found him at all. Whereas a lot of the smiley face ones, they do end up finding a body, by water, in water or whatever. So this one could just have been coincidentally, around that time, or it could have been a part of the same sort of thing, but just the body's in a different, either body of water somewhere or a location or whatever, So, I mean, that's the hard part about Minnesota, is that we have 11,000 lakes, and, thousands more ponds and rivers and streams and creeks and everything. So there's tons of bodies of water here beyond the ones that were just, Stump Lake and on campus.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I had to do a quick Google search. Minnesota has approximately 11,842 lakes that are 10 acres or more in size.
Yeah, you hear that, Wisconsin? You guys count lakes that are way too small. So those are not lakes. We have more lakes than you guys do. PSA.
Yeah. It takes a lot more for a lake to be counted as a lake than I thought, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty good size body of water. So, I mean, there's a lot of bodies of water around, and that's not to mention any of the ponds, rivers, streams, any of that stuff, which we have a lot of too. So it is possible, but you would think, again, with how much people hike, hunt, do things outside, fish, all of that, that if the body was anywhere around in a used body of water, that it would have surfaced at some point.
I mean, especially on a college campus too.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's people everywhere. I mean, college party weekend, you get drunk and you go and walk in the woods,
Yeah.
Someone's going to come upon something.
Yep. And I think it's weird that that nobody saw him like get into a car or something, because I mean, a college campus at 11 to midnight is still a lot of people out usually.
Pretty active. Yeah.
I mean, there's still people walking all over the place, and I guess there were a few students who did think they saw him like by the bridge, crossing the bridge and stuff, but they didn't see any car that he got into. They didn't see anything that seemed weird than just another student walking home. So,
Yeah.
so that's strange too, that how densely populated it is on, on
And
a
no one saw
weekend,
it.
and nobody
Yeah.
saw him get into a car or do anything.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, especially college towns.
yeah,
Everybody's out.
everybody's out at that time. They're all
Hmm.
either going to parties or coming away from parties or going to other people's dorms or whatever. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it does seem strange that nobody actually saw, besides those two people that saw him just walking towards the
Yeah.
bridge, that nobody saw anything after that.
Hmm.
So, or at least nobody who's been willing to come forward
Say
and say
anything. Yep.
anything. So,
Yep. But you never know. Weirder things have happened. I mean, we talked about a case that, what was it, like over 50 years,
yeah.
and they finally were able to solve it.
Yep. And I mean, even another Minnesota case, Jacob Wetterling,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
that was decades. And then they ended up, finding the body and,
Hmm.
all that stuff. So it's possible that hopefully for his family's sake and friends and
Absolutely.
everybody, that they do get closure at some point, whatever that looks like.
Hmm.
But as of right now, it's still an active open investigation. And yeah, if you have any tips or anything, please report them. And we'll
Yep.
see if we can't get this case solved at some point.
Yeah. And I know that I did rattle off the phone numbers. I'll also put that in the description too.
Cool.
So if you guys know something, give them a phone call. All right. Well, thanks for hanging out with us today for this episode of Chaos Chronicles. Make sure that you are following us on our social media platforms. Again, they are down in the description below. And then, yeah, we will see you guys next time for who knows what. Bye.